Okay, I'd like to call the Site Plan Review Committee to order. Roll call, please.
Dennis Persick.
Here.
Dan Pamprin.
Here.
Gary Paul.
Here.
Chris Atkinson.
Here.
Andy Kurowski. And Dale Quinn.
Here.
Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember all our men and women throughout the world in uniform. I have no changes to the agenda. I need motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Chris Atkinson, seconded by Gary Paul, to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I need action on the site plan review minutes for the regular meeting of October 6, 2020.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Dale Quinn, seconded by Chris Atkinson to approve those minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 6, review plans for the following locations. 6A, action on requested site plan review regarding proposed overhead door at FedEx Ground, 3383 Spirit Way, Parcel, VA-443-12. Karen.
Okay. Pretty straightforward request for FedEx Ground on Spirit Way. As you can see up on the screen, they're proposing a 8x9 overhead door on the elevation here to accommodate a mobile truck trailer for the additional packaged goods that are expected to be shipped out over the holiday season. With COVID-19, they've experienced a pretty significant increase in shipping overall. And this is meant to help to accommodate that. An overhead garage door, because electrical involved, does require a building permit, which is why it does require site plan review. Staff does not have any conditions, recommended conditions of approval for this.
Rex, is this just a typical overhead door that they presently have on some of their locations?
Yes, this is actually a little bit smaller than the other ones they have.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions, I'll move to approve the overhead door as presented with any other recommendations.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Gary Paul, a second by Dan Pamprin to approve the proposed overhead door at parcel VA-443-12. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 6B, action on requested site plan review regarding proposed exterior improvements to Heartland Pizza, 2822 Ramada Way, parcel VA-178-6. Karen.
Heartland Pizza, located at 2822 Ramada Way, unfortunately was the site of a car crash into the side of the building earlier this spring. As a result of that, the owner has decided to make a few exterior improvements to take care of the damage, as well as improve the exterior. As identified on the site plan elevation up on the screens, he's proposing to add 2 glass overhead doors to allow for opening of those during warm weather. Patching of block to match the existing and storefront windows to match the new elevation. Additional accent is corrugated metal wall panel added to the exterior in these locations. Consistent with village ordinance, those would need to use fully concealed fasteners. The applicant is in the audience. Do you have any questions for him? Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions for you as well.
Any questions?
Aaron, I heard concealed fasteners.
Correct. As consistent with our code, use of fully concealed fasteners for proposed corrugated metal wall panels on the east elevation is a condition of approval.
And the overhead doors are to the west side of the building?
That would be the east side of the building, facing Ramada Way.
Oh, facing Ramada Way, okay. Okay. No other questions. Again, I'll move to approve as stated along with any conditions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Gary Paul, a second by Dennis Persick to approve the site plan for Heartland Pizza at VA-178-6 with staff conditions. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. 6C, action on requested site plan review regarding proposed accessory structure for Zorn Compressor at 733 Mike McCarthy Way, parcel VA-66-4-2-A. Aaron,
Zorn Compressor, located on Mike McCarthy Way, has requested a up to 10 by 20 foot accessory structure for storage of tools, materials, et cetera. As identified on the site plan, it would be located on the west side of the building, close to the back, or close to the rear of the building itself. Consistent with the village requirements, the accessory structure would have to use one of the, or a combination of allowable exterior materials specified in our code and meet all required setbacks. Because this accessory structure is within the SE Sports Entertainment District, it will need to go to Plan Commission and Village Board for final approval. Staff conditions include, as mentioned, the usage of a combination of allowable exterior materials and meeting the setback requirements for accessory structures in the SE zoning district. The applicant is in the audience. Do you have any questions for him? Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions for you as well.
Aaron, is this building attached to the present building?
No, it'll be detached.
It's detached.
Detached, correct.
There's no other drawings here showing what it's going to look like. You know, I don't want to see anything look like a tin shed alongside of a already tin shed. We're trying to develop that area, and we certainly don't need something that is not eye appealing.
Right. Proposal is basically a prefabricated shed, like you'd see at Menards or something to that effect.
In other words, it's just going to sit on the ground.
Correct.
So it's movable.
Yes.
Is it temporary or permanent?
It's as permanent as an accessory structure can be that's not attached to the ground.
So is there going to be power in it? And
I guess I'd probably leave that question to the applicant.
No power at all. No power, no water.
Just a straight up storage building.
Straight up storage shed to store some tools so we can make room inside the shop to safely store long runs of pipe.
Makes sense.
I guess my first question, is there any way, seeing it's a mobile, can it go to the back of the building so we don't even see it?
We had thought about that.
Sir, could I have you come up and talk into the mic just so for the recording?
We have thought about that, and we are open to that. The only concern with that would be, that's where we push our snow in the winter. So if we put that back there, we'll have nowhere to get our snow out of the area.
I don't know, I'll let it up to you guys what you think. I don't like it.
For storage, I think it makes the most amount of sense because it is in the sports entertainment district, so it's not permanent. There's no concrete slab. It's mobile. I mean, if it doesn't work for them down the road, it's easy just to pick it up, put it back on a truck and be done with it. I'd rather that than you guys pour a slab, build something that does become permanent, that does require heavy equipment to get it out of there. I guess for me, I'm okay with it. I mean, I see where you're coming from, Gary. It's just another thing sitting next to the building, but it's also their property and trying to utilize what they have if they can't go inside with it.
Well, if the building is only 10 feet wide, and I didn't look at your property, I know where you are, I don't know how much room you got in the.
Gary,
back.
could you talk into your mic?
Oh, I'm sorry. Nope.
Thank you.
I don't know how much room you got in the back there, but 10 feet, if it doesn't seem like a lot of footage to put it in the back and still have your snow area to gather.
on what would be the north side, on the north side of the building, if we were to put it there, it would be 10 feet deep by 20 feet long. So the doors would be in the front of that building. They would be facing, so they would be facing towards the property behind us. Essentially, if we were to put it back there and put our snow back there, we wouldn't have any access to the front to get inside the shed. So what we thought we would ask permission to do is put it on the west side of the building where the village had just installed a new transformer. So we could put it just, it would be north of the transformer, south of the transformer, between that and our overhead door. It would sit a foot or so off of the building, and then again, if we didn't like it or if it had to be moved for any reason, we could lift it up and move it out of the way. Because that parking lot gets pretty full of snow, and it all gets pushed in that back little grassy area. So we were thinking about putting it right on the west corner of that building between the new transformer in that area.
What's the color like versus your building?
Well, really, you can tell us that. We can paint it any color you want. If you want us to color match it to the building, it'll probably be made of wood. Believe me, we don't want it to look bad either. So if you guys have a preference and you tell us it needs to be color matched to the building, we'll gladly do that.
Well, that would definitely help it.
All right.
We had considered a 40-foot long storage container, shipping container, and that got shot down pretty quickly. That would look pretty gaudy.
That would be not too pleasing. All right, what do you want to do, Chris?
I'll make a motion to approve as long as it is painted. Doesn't have to be a perfect match, but needs to be painted to match existing exterior. Again, for what you're looking to do, I think it's a good idea.
No issue.
Maybe they could park a truck in front of it, too.
There you go.
Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion by Chris Atkinson, seconded by Dale Quinn, to approve with staff conditions and with it being painted to match the building as close as possible for parcel VA 66-4-2-A. Any more discussion on it?
No.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
This will going to go to Plan Commission and Village Board for final approval.
Right, because of it being in the Sports and Entertainment District.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 6D, discussion regarding metal wall panel fastener types with possible direction to staff. Aaron?
All right. At our past couple meetings, there was discussion regarding the use of fully concealed fasteners, semi-concealed fasteners, and what options might be out there. This is a result of primarily one contractor who would like to use semi-concealed fasteners for some of their projects.
You guys can go if you want.
This was probably about, 3-4 years ago when he made the change to just require fully concealed fasteners, because prior to that, every time a metal wall panel project came up, there was an extensive discussion about whether to require concealed fasteners or not. Concern about exposed fasteners is that over time they tend to weather and rust, and it's not a very appealing look necessarily. That understood was written into the ordinance just to require fully concealed fasteners for all metal wall panels. Since that time, as I mentioned, local contractor has requested that we take a look at using what are called semi-concealed fasteners as an option due to the ability to take those panels out without basically taking the roof off. What I did was, I thought David was going to be here.
He is, he's in the hallway.
Okay. We'll grab him.
Okay.
Dave?
I think so, yeah.
Well, it's, I think it comes down to price, cost. And there's this.
Well, this is,
we
good.
either-
This is bringing sample, one
Yeah,
of those
I mean,
guys came for the Packers, they're going to sample, sounds very helpful.
Bring it up right away.
I like samples, Dave.
So David O'Brien from Bayland is here with some samples, just to demonstrate some of the different options that might be out there for you to consider for the semi-concealed fasteners.
So Aaron, I know I'm the one that kind of caused this, but, so my position is not to replace concealed fasteners with semi-concealed fasteners for new builds. Or anything that is added on to that has concealed fasteners. My position is that a semi-concealed fastener building that's in our village right now should not be required to put in on the back half of their buildings and all that, concealed fasteners.
Sure, okay.
So I'm not saying that I don't think we should just eliminate concealed fasteners. I
Okay.
think we got to have an option when we're doing these additions on these 20-year-old buildings to allow them to put the same siding that they put on 20 years ago.
Okay.
Dan,
I guess what else-
I
after
think
David
that's
kinda-
where we were all headed with, where we were talking, especially Dave got the bad end of that deal.
Yeah.
But that's where I agree with you, to stay with what was or not what will be.
Right. I don't want to see us go back to anything less than a semi-concealed fastener. So if a building was built 40 years ago and has exposed fasteners, I don't agree with us going back that far. But there is very little difference between semi-concealed and concealed fasteners.
Yeah, so I'll probably let David
Yeah, let
kind of
Dave.
present, and then I guess you guys can discuss from there, where you want to go with it. If you want to look at, basically, grandfathering some in, or just saying, no, we're going to keep it the way it is, that's your direction. I'll take a look at the changes and bring them forward.
Okay. Could I have Dave use one of the handheld mics if you're going to, oh, we have one right here?
Here, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, right now, this is, you'll see there's a screw there. And this panel right here is considered semi-concealed with the screw going inside the rib, because the only way you can see it is if you're looking dead on. Keith shouldn't be able to see it over there, and Gary should be able to see it. So the other thing to make that concealed, if you want, is these are the tabs that are put on. And then this is the strip that's made. And then these just slide down to make it hidden.
So what's an unconcealed?
Excuse me?
What's a not concealed? Where is that?
We don't use that.
I know you don't, but-
It would,
Yeah, but where is?
it would be a
Okay,
barn.
but you got to talk into the mic just because,
An unconcealed fastener is basically pole barn tin, where your screws are right on the face of it. They're very visible. There's a lot of them.
I have one of those, but I didn't want to pull it out.
you can just grab the mic, just that mic right there, Dale, if you want. Just talk into it.
Unconcealed is, it's on the face, it's not inside the rib.
Correct, that's,
That's the only difference?
So, one more time. The unconcealed, they'd be sitting out here.
That's the old wrinkled tin that we're.
Yep.
Correct.
Yep.
And this is typically probably what 90% of the contractors use, is this type semi-concealed. And then if they're forced by the local government, they'll use the concealed strip, because the concealed strip is about 10 to 15% more for labor to install it.
How much, Dave?
10 to 15.
Now, if you want to take that strip off. We heard the word removing the roof in order to get it off. Is that true?
That's true. That's true with the concealment strips, yes, because you got to take the gutter off because it overhangs over this, and you can't get to the concealment strip without taking it off. And then,
For the semi-concealed, are the screws or whatever, are they, or can they be non-metallic?
they're the same color as the building, and they have a neoprene washer on them so that they don't rust.
But they can rust. I mean, they're made of metal that
They,
can.
they do, but they have I think it's a 20-year warranty, or might even be 30.
Do they all have the rubber washer on, Dave?
Yes. And then, you can hear me. This is the true,
We got to have you hold the mic. I'm sorry, Dave, but for recording purposes, we got to have.
this is the true concealment panel, and they lock together. You can just put them anyway because they're the same color. Just like that, and then what happens is the screw goes into here, and then they interlock. And that is also a bear to replace.
This is a fully concealed.
That's a fully concealed metal wall panel, and the screws going to this groove. And for a true concealed wall panel, they told me it's roughly 60 to 70% cost difference than the semi-concealed.
And we can really see the difference between, you can get them to match, you can get them to match, but that's a total different look than that. So we have a lot of buildings in the village right now with the bottom one.
And basically, this is a concealed panel. I only got one, but the screw goes in here, and then it locks in to the side.
And the next panel covers that screw up?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tongue and groove.
And this is basically, that'll lock that. This is also concealed wall panel, it's just not insulated.
I think that's,
This is basically,
Cost a lot.
Just like that.
they just lock together.
So they basically lock together like David has it there.
And that's concealed.
that's
This is
concealed.
also. And it's roughly, like I said, it's 60 to 70% cost difference between this. And I know it was brought up, these panels, if they're concealed this way or with the tabs, that panel, before a developer will replace it, will probably have to have a hole in it. If it's just dented, he ain't replacing it because it's just so labor intensive. They told me to replace it.
So what you're holding there is concealed?
This is concealed.
The one that's sitting on the table with the star, that's concealed?
Yes, these are all concealed,
And,
just
uh,
insulated.
And this one that's on the floor, if you put the, slide that over, that's concealed. That meets our concealment requirements from a code standpoint.
Correct.
Okay, Dave, now, the discussion we had with
Use, Gary, can you use Chris's mic, please? Thank you.
Dave, with the construction we had with the last project you brought in here, what panel were you referring to with the fasteners?
Semi-concealed.
So that would be the one on the floor there with the strip running down?
No, there'd be no
That would be
strips.
That would be the old wrinkled tin we're talking about again?
No,
No?
no. If you, this is basically the panel right here,
Okay.
and the screws are.
That screw in it?
In it, yep. And it's considered semi-concealed because the only way.
Okay. It's hidden within the rib, making it like you said, a semi fastener.
Correct.
Concealed fastener.
Correct.
Okay.
And
Okay,
most of the time,
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
most of the time the screw matches the panel.
Okay.
I think they use that to show you. where-
That's the only reason I didn't, this came off of
Semi-concealed.
Sherwin-Williams.
What was your additional cost figure for the strip here?
15 to 20%.
15 to 20%. Does anybody have any data in terms of history of, how long that lasts or any actual
Yeah, it's,
experience with it?
this metal, along with the tabs, are 20 to 30-year warranty, similar to your roofs.
So the only difference, and just to make sure I understand, the only difference between sealed and semi-concealed on what you're holding right there now is strictly that strip that you put on.
Correct.
Everything else is exactly the same.
Yes,
So if you install that semi-concealed, as long as you had a way of getting down from the top to slide that over, you could make it concealed.
yes,
Okay, and just to clarify, 15 to 20% additional for that for totally concealed, what was your figure?
60 to 70.
Okay.
The biggest thing for that is the people that are maintaining the buildings. Once you put that strip on, you're not changing that panel. You're gonna fight with it. So he's probably right, you probably will end up with a better maintained building if it does get dented or hit pretty decent, where there's a good chance they'll do something with it.
So, Dan, let me ask you this. So what you're saying is that if a building already has semi-concealed fasteners, you're saying that we should consider letting them put semi-concealed fasteners, but for any new construction, has to be concealed?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And on my
I would
side, I
say-
agree with that.
I would say, see what's going to happen if we don't do the semi-concealed, or allow them to do that. At some point, we're going to have somebody expand where the road frontage is going to be used, kind of like down on Allied Street there, or whatever that guy was, not Allied, Pilgrim Way. And we're going to end up making them replace all the panels in the front of the building to get them to match. Because you're going to have some with semi-concealed, and then our ordinance right now means that the next panel that's put on that building would have to be concealed fastener. So I'm just trying to be consistent with buildings that were built 20 years ago. Not saying we should change our ordinance for new builds. I mean, I have a building, I have two.
Was built.
Right. I have two buildings in the village right now that have the the concealed fastener with that strip. And I have back panels that should be replaced, but they wanted $22,000 to replace 22 foot high by 22 feet long. $22,000 to replace, really it's 6 panels. They literally got to take the roof off well, I guess they cut those strips now to take them off, and they slide it down and up, and then you have a seam where they cut the strip to replace the panel.
Dan, I think that's what happened on Circle Drive at that pet store, that pet shop, because they built that building with,
Yes.
with the fasteners visible.
Exposed.
And I think they put the pieces on, like you said, sliding one up and the other one down, because there is a seam in it, because Jimmy and I, when Jim Johnson was here, we went and looked at it. So they didn't, because, that was a brand-new building, you're not going to tear the roof off to put that strip on there. So
Yeah.
they did somehow, like you said, put that on for us.
Yeah, that's literally what they do, but then you end up with a seam going down the whole side of the building. So, I just think that, kind of my last straw was the Strabo building. I mean, it's 220 feet off the road. And we're going to have them put in panels like this, because he wants to match the panels. And then we're going to have them put those strips in, 220 feet off the road. And the rest of the building's like the bottom part. I'm like, man, I don't know, this is starting to not make sense. For our residents or commercial buildings that have been in the village for a while, The new stuff, I think it all should be that panel on the top. But that's very expensive. Well, I like the interlocking one right there, but that's very expensive. That's like triple the cost of the bottom one.
But Dan, when you add, that's a insulated one. When you add in your insulation, is it really that much more than putting that on and then rolling insulation over?
I'm sure that panel's quite expensive.
It is,
Yeah.
That's,
because I questioned it.
And you're still going to insulate the building when you're done,
Correct.
you know, so I mean, I'm sure that panel's quite expensive.
Curiosity, what's the R value of, is that urethane foam?
What's the R value of this?
Yeah, is it
I don't have
urethane?
I don't have any idea. I'm guessing it's probably
It's 2
R16. What's
That's
that?
2 inches?
Yes. I don't know, if that's what you're wondering, a metal building will never pass thermal calcs in the state of Wisconsin anymore, so even if you have this, you're still
No, I
insulating the
would like
inside of it because it will never pass. No. Not anymore.
I can agree with Dan that some of this is ridiculous, but I also want to be extremely careful with how you do this, because if you have somebody that has a tiny little building that has semi-concealed fasteners and they come forward to the village and they want to put a massive addition on it, and then they're going to get away with only using a semi-concealed fastener, there needs to be a percentage of the building behind this, and it needs to be written very, very well if we're even going to humor it.
and also, it should be any part of the building that's facing the road.
Right, right. I was just thinking that.
Right.
And I'll just let you know, typically in some municipalities that I've dealt with, expansion that have changed ordinances like you have, they allow you to match what is there, but it's 50% of the addition or 50% of the assessed value. If you're busting those, you're bringing it up to the code that's currently.
Well, and that's kind of my thought, that you would want to be at 40, 50% of the building max, you know?
No, there was somebody that was building a building in the back of their lot that you couldn't even see from the road. And we made them put concealed fasteners all through the whole building.
Right.
So,
Was it built with concealed fastener?
they built a brand-new building,
Oh, then it should be concealed fastener.
but you could not, I mean, you literally could not see any of it.
Well, and that's the other question. While we're talking about this and looking at changing it, do we look at changing that? Because what was that one for, was it quality sandblasting and painting? You couldn't, that was totally hidden.
Right.
You know, I mean, is that something we want to even talk about? Like,
That's the thing, is that, you know, when you're driving, you know, and that's hard to define, because if you're driving down the road and today there's a building here and then they're building a building back here, 15 years from now, this building might be gone and then this building is exposed. So I don't know. I'm
right.
just,
I have a question. If I were to build a building like this in 20 years or 25 or 30 years from now, and I was driving down the road, how would I know if it was semi-concealed or concealed? If I'm 100 yards or 100 feet away?
You can't.
well, but if those little screws that are in the
You
middle of
never-
those
you wouldn't
ribs,
see them 100 feet away. You probably have to get within 30 feet of that building to see it.
Is it the presumption that the screws are going to become visible over time? That's the primary
yes,
presumption?
they
concern,
rust.
yeah, previous concern was that eventually they rust,
Yes.
and they become
I guess that's why
awful.
I raised in my original question, can those fasteners be non-metallic, stainless steel, or something where they do not rust and won't rust?
No, because it would corrode the wall panel. That'd have to be similar material, otherwise you'd get what they would
Even,
call
I
galvanic
mean, they make,
corrosion or any type of
These
other.
high-impact plastic
Well,
fasteners?
most of them are dipped galvanized and then coated the color.
Yeah, I'm sure they do whatever they can do to stop the rust, because that's obviously a big issue. But I didn't know whether you could just use a different material
Like stainless
and
steel or
get away from the rust issue.
The stainless would definitely react with that wall panel. It would rot out in less than a year. So you'd have worse than you would get after 30 years of that screw.
And I know our metal building supplier, like I said, warranties this metal and the screws. It's either 20 or 30 years, so if they fail, they replace it, and then we go out there and do it. If the developer notices anything out of the ordinary.
Dave, you get around quite a bit throughout the, let's say, the existing, or the surrounding counties, which I do myself. And then, since this discussion came up, I've been kind of watching buildings a little bit more. Is Ashwaubenon about the strictest community you have with this subject?
For additions only.
Pardon?
For additions only?
Right.
Right, yeah. No, other, like Dan said, I have no problem meeting your ordinance if that's what it says. But for me to go and tell a developer that he wants that, and I'll use Strabo paper. I came out and told him, I said, I can't imagine that you can't use the same materials. No other municipality, and Aaron can correct me if I'm wrong, is basically what I told you is 50% of the building you can add up to matching the same if the ordinance is different, or 50% of the assessed value. And if it's more than that, then you have to, that building addition has to meet the current code. Otherwise, they usually let the building materials stay status quo.
And, you know, within the discussion, is this something that, like Dan said, the road, anything that's facing the road, and maybe, you know, a couple feet going back, I don't know what that is.
I think there's, you know, kind of a middle ground to find here. I don't think you want to allow for semi-concealed fasteners in your business districts. I think possibly in the.
That's true.
Right. I think, and I also would not think the business park district. Your business park district, you know, people have invested in much higher end finishes and exteriors. Now, in the industrial park, the I-1 and I-2, you know, I think you could probably take a look at some sort of 50% threshold, if that consists of other municipalities, just so that we're not an outlier on that. If that's the direction you want to go, I certainly can write something up, and as Chris mentioned, you know, it has to be written has to be crafted carefully, just like any other ordinance. Yeah, at some point, someone will find a loophole in it, but I'll say if I can write an ordinance for 98% compliance, you know, that's what I'm shooting for. So I guess I'll take direction from you guys. We can decide now. You can, you know, think about it a little bit. You know, come back next meeting if you decide you want to discuss it further. I guess I'd probably leave it up to you guys at this point.
So David, what municipality has that right now that we could look at their ordinance and start there?
I do believe Green Bay and Village of Howard have that.
Okay.
Green Bay does for sure. We haven't built in Green Bay in a while, but I know we did an addition, and I spoke with Paul Newmeyer, and he said we just couldn't match the existing. Basically what he says, you don't want to put a Band-Aid over. You don't want to change it to the code that's currently there if the existing building, you want to see it consistent. Like if there's 4 feet of masonry wainscoting, but the code requires now 50% of the face of that wall to be masonry, he goes, we don't want to do that because then it looks like it was built out of place.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive Green Bay and Howard.
It's something that it can certainly be crafted. I guess I'm just looking for direction on where you want me to go with it.
Can I make one suggestion here? You know, we can beat this thing over the head all day long, and I don't believe in long discussions on stuff like this. Is it possible, Aaron, that Dan, you build buildings, you know what you're talking about. Chris, you know what you're talking about. The three of you get together and put something together along with Aaron, finding out what other communities are doing, and bring it back to us, and let's see where we can come to a happy medium on this and get something settled on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I was planning on doing was if I got direction from you guys to, you know, put something together, I was going to plan on bringing it together and bring it back at our next, maybe not the next one, maybe the one after that, for you to take a look at and decide if that meets what you're looking for as site plan review committee or not. Yeah, that's kind of what I had planned to do.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, and I know Paul Newmeyer pretty good, for bad reasons, not good reasons, but I wouldn't mind calling him and asking him some questions.
I would just want to make sure that the front of all of our buildings are still concealed, no matter what. Like, it would have to be written that way. And if you're on a corner lot, I'm sorry, but it's the
agree.
other corner as well.
I agree.
And it's going to have to be written very hard that way for me to be behind it. And then after that, if there's an addition, I'm okay with it. Up to 50%, that would be my max. I was thinking 40, but
So right now, Dave brought up a good point. If we have a building that's all steel in the front, and they come in and they want to add, and it's a 50-foot building, and they want to add 25 feet to the front of the building. Right now, we make them put wainscoting or put a brick front on the whole thing, right?
There are exceptions for that in the industrial park, I-1 and I-2 districts. So it's not a definite, I'd have to take a look back at the language, but if it's an addition, I believe, of less than 75%, then they can extend what they have. But I need to just verify that. But there's an exception for that. And that actually just came up on a different project recently.
Yeah, I remember something like that.
Actually, I'll mention that in the staff report itself, in case anyone asks the question, why isn't wainscoting required? It's because of this exception for those 3 zoning districts.
Right. Right. And
Remember
that's been, you've rewritten that so that the contractors understand those things, so they should know.
Right. Yep. And I guess that's one thing I want to make sure is that, whatever's written is that, when the contractors do look at the ordinance, I want to make sure that it's very clear what is and what isn't allowed. Because there are times where I get calls from guys who are bidding and saying different people are bidding different ways based upon our ordinance. And I'm like, well, our ordinance should be pretty clear. So I want to make sure that whatever's written, it can't be misinterpreted.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
get
you,
to work
Aaron.
on that.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Hold on a second, I'll give you a hand with this.
Okay. Moving on, number 7, department reports.
Let's see, we'll definitely have a site plan review committee meeting on December 1st. I'm sorry, December, missing a month. November 3rd for a couple projects. So yeah, we're still busy. It's kind of surprising in spite of COVID and everything else, not seeming to go away. People are still wanting projects done. So it's a good thing for the village.
Yeah. Okay, any items for the next agenda? Yes, we have them, so that hence there will be, gosh, the next time we meet, it'll be November. Wow.
Wear your boots.
Okay, no more comments. I need a motion to adjourn.
second.
Motion by Dennis Persick, seconded by Chris Atkinson to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Right.
Opposed. We're done. Thank you.
This